Welcome to Catholic Answers Live, the program where you participate with your questions about apologetics and evangelization, including the most important theological, spiritual, moral, and social issues facing the world today. Call now with your question for today's guest. Toll free 1-888-31-TRUTH. That's 888-318-7884. Now, from San Diego, Catholic Answers Live.
Hello, and welcome back to another week of Catholic Answers Live. So happy to have you here with us. First hour of a Monday afternoon. And I wonder if you would answer a question for us this hour. Why are you pro-choice? Usually callers call us with a question, but we'd like to know, why are you pro-choice? Given the evidence, given the state of our society, given what you see all around you, do you have a reason that you are pro-choice? And would you be willing to discuss it with us? 888-318-7884 is the number. 888-318-7884. Our guest this hour, Trent Horn, an apologist here at Catholic Answers, highly regarded speaker, but maybe even more highly regarded debater. You've been doing a lot of that debating recently, Trent. Trent is the author of Answering Atheism, Hard Sayings, a Catholic Approach to Answering Bible Difficulties, and the brand new book, Why We're Catholic, Our Reasons for Faith, Hope, and Love. But the one that we may be referring to most today is Persuasive Pro-Life. Hi, Trent. Thanks for being with us.
Hello, Cy. Good to be back.
And so, when you wrote the book Persuasive Pro-Life, but that comes from experience with you. You've spent a good part of your life engaging in conversation about life issues.
That's right. After high school, I did some work with the state Right to Life organization where I lived, and then I went and traveled with a pro-life organization called Justice for All. And what they did is, and they continue to do this, they would go to university campuses and set up a large photo exhibit with pictures of the unborn before and after abortion. And it was those pictures, particularly the after abortion pictures, they made a fair number of people upset. And, they wanted to come and talk to us. Some people were just curious, wanted to talk, and it created a great opportunity to dialogue with college students about this really important issue. And after several years of doing this, I took those experiences, among others, and hours and hours of research into the subject to write my book, Persuasive Pro-Life, to help pro-life people have better conversations on this issue. And also, I think it helps pro-choice people, frankly, have better conversations on this issue. Both sides better understand what the key issues are related to abortion, and be better able to talk about it and sort it through.
Well, for you then, when people would come up to you, maybe who were pro-choice people, and did you learn from the things that they said? Did you ever have pause, say, "Oh, I hadn't thought of that before," or do you? Or are we so kind of, I don't know, I hate to think set in our positions is the way to think about it, but are we so set in our positions that you don't hear things too much anymore that really maybe surprise you?
Well, I think there are certainly people like that who are so set in their ways, nothing is ever going to move them from what they believe, no matter what. But I'm always willing to revise and change my beliefs and notice where I may have erred in a certain point. For example, it's possible to hold a position such as abortion is morally wrong, or the unborn are human beings, and yet one fact that makes up that position, or a statistic, you may find out later is erroneous or mistaken. And so then one would revise their views. And I've done that several times. I talk about in my book a common fact related to fetal development that is cited that actually is incorrect if you read the fact in its most literal way. So I talk about that in my book. About other statistics people put forward or broad assertions. So I'm always willing to revise my views, and I've met pro-choice advocates who revise theirs when I present evidence to counter that, and I've met others who have completely changed their minds on this subject. So there's certainly the power and capability to do that, because I think this is an issue that ultimately comes down to reason and evidence that anyone, whether they're religious or non-religious, can accept. And that's why I enjoy talking with pro-choice people on this issue, no matter what their religious or non-religious background is. And so I'd love to talk with people today find out, well, why are you pro-choice? And let's have that dialogue.
888-318-7884 is the number if you would like to share with us why you, in fact, are pro-choice. 888-318-7884. And I can promise you, well, I think I can promise you that the conversation will, at least from our end, will stay civil. I mean, we don't, and I hope even beyond civil, will be charitable, because there's no, the point is not to hurt or wound someone. The point is to have an actual conversation about this. 888-318-7884. If you're willing to share with us why you are pro-choice, we would love to hear that. Trent Horn, our guest this hour, has his most recent book, Why We're Catholic, Our Reasons for Faith, Hope, and Love. I want to keep mentioning that while Trent is here with us. Trent, is there in the how to phrase this? I don't want to phrase things in ways that shut conversations down or make people not want to call. But are there any statistics that tell us, do people change over the course of their life, so that if you're 50, you're more likely to be this way, and if you're 18, you're more likely to be this way, and if you're 80, you're more likely to be this way? Do you see what I'm saying in regard to life issues?
Well, I'm not aware of statistics related to what people believe about whether they change. From what I'm aware, when it comes to statistics, the people who are most likely to oppose legal abortion tend to actually be younger. So young people tend to be more pro-life than their older counterparts. And I see this firsthand when I go to events where there are pro-life and pro-choice demonstrators. The pro-choice demonstrators are usually much older than the pro-life demonstrators. When you compare their marches, the marches of pro-lifers tend to be very young people. Even if you take out the Catholic students that are bussed there, just those who come on their own accord, they tend to be younger. So that's one thing I've noticed in the demographics of this issue, that younger people who have opportunities to see the ultrasounds that were the 3D ultrasounds that were taken of them in the womb, if you think about it. I mean, many high schoolers today would be able to see ultrasound photographs taken in the year 2001, 2002 that clearly show there's you, and it looks just like you, even at 9 or 10 weeks, has your same facial characteristics and things like that. So that may be one element involved about the demographics of belief on this issue. But obviously they change from person to person. That's why I like talking to individual persons who call into our show. 888-318-7884 is the number. If you are pro-choice, this is a day for you. We'd like to hear from you. We'd like to have you share with us why. Why did you come to that conclusion that you should be pro-choice? Should we be pro-choice as well? Maybe you want to make that argument. 888-318-7884. Trent Horn is our guest. He is the author of Persuasive Pro-Life, among his many other books. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll go to your calls on why are you pro-choice. 888-318-7884. We'll be right back on Catholic Answers Live.
Don't you just love listening to Trent Horn? Did you know you can book Trent or any of our other great speakers to speak at your parish or special event? Contact one of our seminar coordinators through the Speakers Bureau section on Catholic.com today to find out more information.
Talking about abortion can be scary, but so is anything with which you're unfamiliar. People need to learn how to talk about abortion in ways that inspire confidence in the truth of the pro-life position. We must talk about abortion because we are afraid. Persuasive Pro-Life: How to Talk About Our Culture's Toughest Issue is the new book by apologist Trent Horn that teaches you to face those fears, to engage in sustained and meaningful dialogue with the goal of persuading others. Field-tested on college campuses, Persuasive Pro-Life will help you to change people's hearts and minds and begin to build up a pro-life culture in today's world, one person, one conversation at a time. Order your copy of Persuasive Pro-Life: How to Talk About Our Culture's Toughest Issue today by calling 1-888-291-8000, going to Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore in your area. Also available as an ebook.
The Catholic Answers Minute. I'm Father Vincent Serpo. In John 15:26, when Jesus promised the Advocate, he then warned the disciples that they would be expelled from the synagogues. The hour would come when they would be killed as an act of worship by ignorant people. Now, why does God allow this to be so? Why not have everyone be of an accepting mindset? But such is not God's design. He did not program us to be benign automatons. We can kill the apostles and the prophets who came before them. We can even persecute and put to death the Son of God. Who is this unfathomable being that he allows such evil to rear its wrath upon the sacred? He is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, who transcend the universe and yet are imaged in our very DNA. Because we know the Father and the Son, we revel in such mystery. The Spirit has indeed breathed on us. I'm Father Vincent Serpa for Catholic Answers, Catholic.com.
Call now with your question, 888-318-7884. This is Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Thanks so much for being with us this Monday afternoon. Trent Horn is our guest. Trent Horn is apologist here at Catholic Answers and well-known writer and speaker and debater. And Trent, because there are quite a few calls coming in, you feel comfortable just going right to calls?
Sure, absolutely.
All right, let's go to Becky in Pasco, Washington, listening on 100.3 EWTN. Becky, your question, or no, I said that wrong. Becky, you wanted to tell us why you are pro-life.
Pro-choice.
Pro-choice.
Okay, I want to make it clear that I am not a Catholic, but I've been thinking heavily about it and reading a lot about Catholicism. This is one of the issues that I struggle with because I am pro-choice, but I'm also pro-life. I recognize that what we have here is an ideal, and then we have a reality. And when I look around, I see, and as a woman, I can see, and I've certainly read enough history to know that women have been horribly punished for becoming pregnant by, they have to make this decision. They cannot have another child. They can't afford it. They're in a horrible position. It's like contraception with the Catholic Church. I believe in the ideal. It's great if you have a loving husband. And then you look at these women that don't have that. And so for this reason, I believe that abortion should not be illegal. I certainly believe it should be rare.
Becky, why do you think abortion should be rare?
Because I think it should hardly ever or never happen in an ideal world, but we just don't live in that world, and that's
right.
what I struggle with.
Oh, sure. But Becky, I want to get really specific here. What is it about abortion in particular that makes it so that you think it should rarely happen? What in particular about abortion?
Because it's the murder of a human being.
Okay, so let me see if I understand your position. You're saying you don't like the murder of human beings. In an ideal world, we wouldn't murder human beings, but it should be but it should be legal to murder human beings because some people think it's necessary.
No, I don't think I think that if someone is at a place in their life where a woman is at a place in her life where she absolutely cannot have this child, it's going to kill her and deprive her other children of a mother or something,
So Becky, you mean if a woman's life is in danger from a pregnancy?
Or it's just too much for her and she will break under it.
Okay, so Becky,
That happens.
Let's go back a little, though. You said you disagreed with my summary. Tell me what was wrong with it. Your view is the murder of human beings should be legal if the murderer thinks it's necessary or they have no other option. Isn't that what you just said to justify abortion? Women think they'll break or they have no other option. It's hard for me to understand the legal killing of human beings just as one person thinks they need to do that.
I think we need to have some sort of place where we go where we don't have black and white. You know that's what a lot of people struggle with Catholicism. That's what a lot of people struggle with Christianity.
When you say
we have
black,
to have a place where people are.
You say you're against black and white. You mean like absolute standards?
I understand absolute standards, and I'm that kind of person. And I have all my life been that way. I have strong feelings about personal behavior and choices. But I really struggle with making it illegal for a woman to end a pregnancy that will destroy her life.
What do you mean by destroy her life? You mean change her life, such as she won't be able to continue school? Because here, Becky, here's the problem I have. Would you agree with this? Let's look at the majority of cases, not where a woman's life is in danger, but say, you know, her boyfriend or husband will leave her, she'll have to drop out of school. I would say, would you agree that abortion will change her life, but when it comes to the child, it won't literally destroy her life, it'll change her life, but would you agree abortion will literally destroy the child's life?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
But in that case, I would say have the baby and give it up for adoption if you do not want to raise. I'm very big on that. Let's not abort. Let's adopt.
Okay, great. So it seems to me that in some cases you can see, all right, no, violence is not a good answer to this solution. Let's choose a nonviolent approach. So I guess what's hard for me, Becky, I just wonder, I think you would agree you wouldn't support this kind of approach for a born child. Like, let's say, for example, a woman couldn't get an abortion and she's in a desperate situation like you talk about, all right? And she gives birth at home even, and now she doesn't know what to do. And she's freaking out. She's got this baby, doesn't know how to take care of the baby, and she decides to start giving the baby a bath, and she walks away for a minute. And she looks back and sees that the baby has slid under the water and is drowning, okay? Now, if she just lets that baby drown, she gets her life back the way it was. Do you think she should do that, or do you think she should pull that baby out of the water and not let it drown? What do you think she should do in that case?
She should not kill the baby.
Should it be
But if
illegal?
you make
No,
abortion-
let me continue. Let me continue real fast, and I want to hear your thoughts. Should it be illegal for her to kill the baby in that bathtub? Should it be against the law?
Absolutely, and she probably would go to jail for that.
Then why not have that same attitude towards that baby a few days earlier when he or she is in the womb? You know, what's the difference?
Ideally, she should, but if you make it illegal, women are driven to horrible places where they have to have under-the-counter abortions, and their lives are literally put into danger. If they can't go to a doctor and have an abortion legally, and they are going to have an abortion, then if it's illegal, now you're talking exploitation of women who want abortions by doctors who exploit.
Okay, so Becky, let me summarize now this new position you're putting forward, that what you're most concerned about are illegal abortions. So it seems to me what you're saying is it should be legal for a bigger human being to kill a smaller human being. That way it's safer for the bigger human being. Isn't that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you will always have women who will want to end a pregnancy. If you cut off all channels of that, they will attempt it.
So you want to make it
harm them.
So your concern is to make it safer for the mother, the bigger human being, to kill the baby, the smaller human being.
I have trouble thinking of a mother or even a teenager going to a back alley abortionist. Yes, I do. They're going to do it, Trent.
Is every woman going to break the law? Don't most women
Certainly
obey the
not.
law?
Certainly not, as I would. But I have been very fortunate in my life, and I don't have had to make that decision. I would never kill a baby. Like I said, when we first started, I'm pro-life. But I think you have to have an element of choice at some level.
Okay. Well, I think I'd like you to consider what I've talked about, Becky, and also I'd like you to stay on the line. I'd like our call screener to get back to you, so please stay on the line. Don't hang up. Because what I'd like to do is to get your address, and I'd like to send you a copy of my new book, and here's why. I wrote a book called Why We're Catholic, and I want to send it to you because you said you have an interest in Catholicism, you've read about it. I think this book will help you, and chapter 21 of the book is called Why We Protect Life. So I'd like you to check that out, and some of the other chapters might be helpful for you as well. So please stay on the line so a call screener can get to you. And we'd love to send you a copy of that and to think over a little bit more of what we talked about. So thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you very much, Becky. Please stay and get that book. 888-318-7884 is our number. Trent Horn is our guest, and we are asking you Why are you pro-choice today? We go now to Bob in Kenosha, Wisconsin, listening on 88.5 WFFI. Bob, your your comment for Trent Horn.
Hi. You're familiar with the Catholic belief of just war theory. It's in your catechism.
That's correct.
That seems to be a really explicit and very carefully drawn out example of pro-choice in the situation of aggression and aggressors and the legitimation of violence in specific. It lays out specific ends justify means through a teleological ethic. Would you agree with that?
Well, the just war doctrine, which has its roots in St. Augustine, and you can find that in paragraph 2309 of the Catechism, does put forward conditions where it is justified to use lethal force in the context of war, but they are very specific conditions. That's correct.
2307. Sorry.
2307 talks about the fifth commandment and begins about talking about avoiding war, but in 2309 you get the four conditions. But in any case, are you saying that the just war criteria applies to abortion?
Teleological ethic. Okay? It's a teleological ethic. It considers the situation. It respects those in charge of the lives involved in sending folks to war to fight, potentially taking lives, potentially subjecting their own lives to being harmed or ended. It respects that decision of that nation. Correct?
That is not what the just war doctrine says, because a nation could be incorrect in the judgment that it reaches. Here are the conditions that are put forward for legitimate defense by military force. It says, first, this is put forward as a response to a threat or attack. So it says that in the response, the damage inflicted by the aggressor on the nation or community must be lasting, grave, and certain. All other means of putting an end to the conflict have to be shown to be impractical or ineffective. There have to be serious prospects of success, and the use of arms must not produce evils greater than the evil to be eliminated. So that's why, for example, many Catholic theologians would say the use of nuclear weapons in a populated area would not be compatible with just war doctrine, because they would create greater evils than what you're trying to reduce. So I would disagree with your notion the just war doctrine is purely teleological, or it's only about the ends. Ends do not justify intrinsically evil means. So for a war to be just, you cannot do something intrinsically evil to win the war, such as intentionally murder innocent civilians, for example.
Correct. I see what you're saying about that, and I may have used the word teleological too broadly there.
Okay.
But in a situation like, for example, what your previous caller was struggling with talking about, and what you were asking her, if in the life threat of the woman bearing the fetus, if that life would end, if she would justify that, that's similar to what you're describing in reading those 4 or 5 paragraphs from the Catechism.
Yes, well, let me explain this then. In cases where a woman's life is in danger in pregnancy, it wouldn't fall under the principles of just war doctrine, because the child is not an aggressor. The child is doing what they naturally do. There's just some other kind of defect or condition where the child's natural development is causing harm. The child's not an aggressor in any way, shape, or form. Well, what we would put in this situation, what we would apply, would be the principle of double effect. And that's the idea that a person can act in a way that results, for example, in death without intending it. So if someone breaks into my home and is going to kill my family, I can kill them in self-defense, for example. But I wouldn't be justified if they're running away from my home and shooting them in the back. That would just be straight-up murder. So in the case of a woman's life's in danger, we can act such as by removing a cancerous uterus or a damaged fallopian tube, and the child's death is indirect, though tragic, but not directly willed. But abortion is directly willed, and that's why it's intrinsically evil.
Thank you very much for that call. We'll be right back with more Why Are You Pro-Choice with Trent Horn on Catholic Answers Live.
Catholic Answers Live with Trent Horn is coming right back.
EWTN News Nightly with Lauren Ashburn.
As a journalist, I held people accountable. And that's what I want to do here. I want to hold government, politicians, leaders, moral leaders accountable for the actions that they take. And to do it in a way that gives our Catholic audience something new that they would not find anywhere else.
EWTN News Nightly with Lauren Ashburn. Weekdays at 9 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
As legend tells it, 500 years ago, a disaffected Augustinian priest nailed his 95 Theses to the door of the Wittenberg Cathedral. The evidence that he actually did this is pretty thin, but Martin Luther's objections to Catholic teachings concerning purgatory and indulgences set off a series of countless ruptures that the Church suffers to this very day. The faithful Catholic wants to be God's instrument in healing these ruptures, but may not know where to begin. Join us this September 28th to 30th as we tackle the topic at Catholic Answers' 4th National Apologetics Conference, the reunion of all Christians, a lively and inspiring conference designed to ignite and inform your faith. We've got an all-star lineup of speakers guaranteed to fire you up. Catholic historian Steve Weidenkopf, apologist Mark Brumley, apologist Devin Rose, plus all of your favorite Catholic Answers apologists. This is an event you don't want to miss. This is where it all begins. Join us this September for a conference that is sure to leave you wanting more. Seats are still available, but they're going fast. Visit CatholicAnswersConference.com or call 1-888-291-8000 today to register. That's CatholicAnswersConference.com.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Cy Kellett, your host, Trent Horn, our guest. And while we got Trent here with us, I will mention that one more day on we have a promotion. Well, no, it goes on beyond, but I want to mention that while we've got him here, Why We're Catholic, Our Reasons for Faith, Hope, and Love is Trent's latest book. And if you're looking for an explanatory book that helps you understand the various reasons why we're Catholic, and then, like you mentioned, chapter 21, why we protect life is one of them. So it's about why we believe and do the things we believe and do as Catholics. This is the book for you, and you can get it for $10 right now if you call 888-291-8000 or go to the online shop at Catholic.com, shop.catholic.com. And I was right here. It says I have a note. Today is the last day to take advantage of this special price. If you want to purchase 20 copies, because it's a great book to just give out, to have on hand to give out to folks, they'll ship you 20 copies for $3 a copy. That's $60 for 20 copies. 888. If you want to order that, 888-291-8000. You can also get the ebook for only $3.99. 888-318-7884 is our number here. We're asking folks to share with us why they are pro-choice so that we can, we hope, have a civil and even friendly conversation about these things. We go now, Trent, to Armin in Findlay, Ohio, listening on 99.1 FM. Armin, your comment for Trent Horn.
Hello. My primary reason, there are a few, would be that education and contraception would be a surefire way, well, not surefire, but more likely to prevent the possibility of an abortion rather than making it illegal, which in countries where abortion is legal has a higher rate of abortion than in countries where it is legal and controlled.
Oh, you mean where countries where abortion is illegal, there are more abortions than in countries where it's legal?
Yes.
Where did you get a source for that?
That's the difficult part. I was on a drive here. I researched it a while ago, so I can't give you a name at the moment. I apologize
that's
about
fine.
that.
Oh no, that's quite all right, Armin. And I've heard that claim made by multiple people, and I know the Guttmacher Institute, which used to be the research arm of Planned Parenthood, has made that claim, and people put that out. But I think that it's incorrect, and it doesn't follow both from an empirical and even from a common sense perspective. For example, we know there are countries where abortion has very, very low rates, such as in Western Europe. Switzerland has very low abortion rates, things like that. But actually, they restrict abortion more in these Western European countries. They have more laws. It's more illegal there than it is in the United States. In those European countries, abortion is illegal after the first trimester, for example. Yet they have lower rates, even though they have more illegal abortions. Second, the countries that actually have the highest abortion rates in the world are places where it's legal and the government pays for it. Russia and China, I think, have actually the highest abortion rates in the world, and abortion's legal. The government often pays for it. So I don't really think there's a connection. And I also think that common sense-wise, if you think about it, if an activity is legal, more people will do it than if it's illegal. I mean, for example, if we got rid of the speed limits, Armin, do you think people would in general drive faster?
No. That is a red herring that branches off to a different topic than what we're talking about. Because the issues such as drug use and alcohol use have increased with use when those were made illegal, such as in Prohibition. And in addition, when you spoke about Western Europe, you're talking about countries that are more educated in general than the United States are, and are more free to talk about sex and more open about it, about talking about sex and contraception. So those are other examples where education and contraception perhaps does more than the restriction of legality in abortions.
Well, I think you'd have to rely on education here, and particular types of education, because in places like China and Russia, contraception is also widespread as well. But I think the point you bring up about, well, there's other things in these countries, I think that raises to light a fallacy of reasoning called correlation but not causation. Just because things are related doesn't necessarily mean there's a causal element there. So in countries where many people choose illegal abortions, for example, or have, choose abortion even if it's illegal, it may be the case the reason people choose that is because they're impoverished countries, for example, and it's not really related to the way the law is one or another. But let's go back to that common sense principle, though. If an activity is legal, more people do it when it's illegal. Outside of abortion, isn't that true for everything else?
You're saying that more people do it when it's illegal with everything else? Well,
No. When an activity becomes legal, more people choose to do it, since most people are law-abiding citizens. Most people follow the law and what the authorities say. So, if you take away speed limits, people drive faster. And if you look at other, situations, when something becomes legal, more people take part. You can even see this in the United States. If you look at abortions that took place even before Roe versus Wade, one statistician said there might have been about 98,000 a year. But then after abortion became legal, it quickly jumps to 500,000 and then 1 million. So that, though, I think this is an interesting factual question. But at the end of the day, we have to look at the moral issue, Armin, and that is, what is abortion and is it right or wrong? Because justice demands that crimes against innocent people be made illegal. So I'm not sure what you would think about this. Do you think that even if rape was decreased in certain countries, if it were legal, that we should make rape legal, or that rape should just be illegal because it's a crime against women? Do you see the comparison I'm drawing?
Yes, but that's a red herring. It's an entirely different subject. The rape is a single decision to harm another sentient. It's a different concept altogether.
Than abortion.
Than abortion, yeah.
Okay,
different arguments against abortion for me involve against making abortion illegal, is that I don't view fetuses as sentient, and sentience should be the key factor, not human beings.
What do you mean by sentience?
That means intelligence above a certain point, the ego, containing the ego.
So when you say ego, you mean a sense of I or self?
Yes.
Do rats or pigeons have egos?
I don't know about rats, but I do believe elephants, cows, dogs, and when a baby is born and when it starts absorbing all the information around it. Before sentience, though.
Wait. You
like
think a newborn baby has an ego, or they think I am this, and they have a sense of intelligence?
They're beginning to develop one. Yeah.
They're beginning to develop one, or they have one.
How can I define that? I'm not a specialist in that field, but at some point between then and an age that we're all familiar with, 4 or 5, there is an ego.
Right, but this is really important that we have to be able to define it, because you're talking about who it's okay to kill or not kill.
You can't even use the word kill. I think that would be an assumption of taking or murder. It's a heavily loaded word in this case.
What is killing?
To kill would be the removal of life.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
What does it mean right. So the unborn human organism is alive, it's growing, so we need abortion to kill it.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the key here is, do you think then that the killing of another human being, like myself or Cy or anybody else, is morally equivalent to killing like a cat or a cow? They're morally equivalent because sentience is all that matters?
Nearly. There is a degree of sentience that's different. A cat is incapable of contemplating abstract thought.
Okay, so it's not. So let's take a cow, for example. Do you think people who eat cheeseburgers are like moral monsters because they ate a sentient being?
I wouldn't say monsters, but less moral than those who don't, yeah.
So I'm guessing you don't eat meat.
I don't, yeah.
Okay. Do you? But if your home was infested with rats, would you? You're saying you're not sure if you would fumigate it?
It's a good question. I think I would in that case.
You would, because a rat... I mean, rats are obviously, they have a minimal amount of intelligence, right? But not enough for you to think their lives matter? Okay, so then for me, I guess your logic, it entails there's nothing wrong with killing a newborn baby because a newborn baby is not smarter than a rat.
Is it not?
No, it's not.
Is the baby also a burden on society? Because then there's other factors that come into that. I'm a fan of Peter Singer, actually, and so he goes as far to say that like that is not wrong in certain conditions.
Well, I guess for me is so you're saying it is okay to kill. You're putting conditions here. What I'm saying is which beings are we allowed to kill, and which ones are we not allowed to kill. And so you're not even sure when it comes to rats. I mean, for many people, a newborn baby, especially in, let's say, a developing country, is a burden. Should they be allowed to kill if they live in a impoverished area of India or of South America? Should they have that choice to kill a newborn infant they believe is a burden, just as someone might kill a rat that's a burden to them here in this country?
I suppose there might be a situation where it's possible. Every case is a case-by-case study. I can't say yes or no to that. Just like every abortion might be morally right or wrong depending on its outcomes, I float completely in the gray. There is no black and white.
Except that it's black or white for you that sentience is what matters. That's definite.
Yes, but unless, of course, sentience are invading, right? Like, there's always going to be conditions that break the rule.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think I'll let our listeners think more into that. We're going to have to go to another break here. But I think that this is the logical conclusion of those who say the unborn do not matter because they don't have higher order thinking skills. If you hold that view and you're consistent about it, then you have to be... you have to treat newborns the same as you would treat pests. because they have an equal kind of sentience. And any other approach to say, well, and in fact, what's funny is I once met Peter Singer about 9 years ago, and in an audience, I asked him about this, because I said my parents once euthanized our pet dog because he was incontinent, and they didn't want to pay thousands of dollars to treat him. And I said to Singer, what if it wasn't my pet dog? What if it was my baby brother? Should it be different? And he hemmed and hawed, kind of like what Armin said. Well, emotions, different circumstances. But at the end of the day, Singer even said, no, there is no difference. And Cy, I'll tell you this. People came up to me later and said that I was ignorant, a simple-minded person for just saying, well, just because you're a baby, you matter.
Yeah,
well,
it's
that's the poison that comes from the ivory tower. We have to watch out for. So something for our listeners to think about.
It is indeed. It's rare. It used to be, I think, rare that you would hear someone advocate the possibility that you could take the life of infants. It's striking and horrifying.
But
to
it's
hear
it's common.
Yeah.
That's why in my book Persuasive Pro-Life I have an appendix.
Yeah.
And a whole appendices on answering infanticide because it's coming.
Armin, thank you for the call. I hope you will continue to listen and call again, perhaps, especially when Trent's on, because I think that was a very helpful conversation for all of us. And I don't know what else to say. If you're going to advocate the killing of infants, we've got to take a break. We'll be right back on Catholic Answers Live.
Why are you pro-choice? Call now. Trent is waiting to talk to you.
Right now, Catholic Answers is conducting its summer campaign. It's a crucial time because we need to offset the drop in donations that occurs every summer. If you're able to give $50 or more, to thank you for your support, we have several gifts we'd like to send you. First, a signed copy of the full 3-CD set Lepanto, The Battle That Saved the West, so that you can get the full story about this crucial, history-changing intervention of Our Lady of the Rosary. We'll also send you the 3 latest volumes in our 20 Answers series. They cover apparitions and revelations, witchcraft and the occult, and the Church. If you're able to donate $90 or more, we'll also send you Carlo Broussard's CD, Your Truth, My Truth, How to Understand and Refute Relativistic Thinking, which has a free 38-page downloadable study guide. We'll also send you Stephen Weidenkopf's 2-CD set, The Real Story of the Reformation, just in time for its 500th anniversary. And we'll send you Dr. Edward Sri's new book, Who Am I to Judge? Responding to Relativism with Logic and Love. Finally, if you're able to donate $180 or more, we'll also send you Trent Horn's 12-part audio interview series, The Apologetics Collection, in which he picks the brains of people like Carl Keating, Jimmy Akin, Tim Staples, Patrick Madrid, Steve Ray, Devin Rose, and more on a host of the most pressing apologetic issues. Finally, we'll send you a hardback copy of the beautiful illustration-filled book Fatima Mysteries, Mary's Message in the Modern Age, just in time for the celebrations happening now of the famous Fatima apparitions which took place exactly 100 years ago. Every year, Catholic Answers seeks to win souls for Christ in countless ways, but we can't do this without your help. To learn how you can help Catholic Answers, visit Catholic.com and click the 2017 Summer Campaign banner. That's the 2017 Summer Campaign banner at Catholic.com.
We have a big problem. Our culture is dying, and souls are in danger of being lost. The answer is conversion to Jesus Christ in His Church. St. Paul Street Evangelization is a Catholic organization, and we have hundreds of teams spreading the good news throughout the country. But we need your help. The harvest is great, but the laborers are few. Find out more and get involved today at streetevangelization.com. That's streetevangelization.com.
Call now with your question. 888-318-7884. This is Catholic Answers Live.
Well, welcome back. Thank you so much for being with us today. For those of you who would like to speak with Trent, we have some lines open. 888-318-7884 is the number. 888-318-7884. We're discussing today, why are you pro-choice? If you'd like to share with us your arguments or defenses for being pro-life, we'd be very happy to engage in a polite, friendly conversation with you. I can't, you know what, Trent? need a little palate cleanser. So I want to talk about
Yes.
something else just for a quick minute, because I did want to get this in, and I think now might be a good moment because I'm still recovering from a previous caller. You're going to walk in the footsteps of Jesus.
That's right. Next Easter, I'm very excited about this. I'm going to be leading a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. So next Easter, I think it's March 23rd through April 2nd, we're going to be going to the Holy Land, and we're extending the trip a little bit by a few days because we're going to spend several days in Jerusalem during the Triduum. We'll do, Mass up in the upper room on Holy Thursday. We'll do the Way of the Stations of the Cross on Good Friday, Mass in the Church of Holy Sepulchre where Jesus' tomb is on Holy Saturday or Easter Sunday. So I'm really excited about this, to lead people through the Holy Land. I'll be there giving talks on our faith, on apologetics, how to defend our faith, how to dive deeper into the Scriptures. So it's really wonderful. If our listeners want to learn more about that, they can go to holyland2018.com. That's holyland2018.com, and that's for my pilgrimage to the Holy Land next Easter. And the first 20 people that sign up will get $100 off. So I think it's going to be a wonderful thing to dive deeper into your faith, and I hope our listeners will check it out.
Very good. Say it again, Holy Land 2018. That's where you go.
Yeah, just holyland2018.com.
All right. Why are you pro-choice is our topic this hour. Jeff in Sacramento, California, has been waiting a bit. Jeff, he's listening on Immaculate Heart Radio. Jeff, your question or your comment for Trent Horn.
Well, basically, since it's murder, according to Trent, then it should, a woman or a doctor should be put in jail. Since it's premeditated, I would suggest that the sentences would probably be 40, 50, or in some states maybe even the death penalty. And I certainly don't want to see that.
So, Jeff, your objection then to making abortion illegal is that you don't want the people who caused the baby's death to be punished.
Correct.
So, do you think in general that people who commit homicide should not be punished, or just in this case?
Say that again?
Do you think in general, if a person kills another person, they shouldn't be punished? Or is it only in the case of abortion where you think the perpetrator should not be punished?
In the case of a homicide, I would definitely want the person to be punished. But since this is premeditated murder, according to your definition, correct? Am I incorrect on that?
When it comes to abortion?
Yes.
Premeditated murder has different conditions attached to it. Murder is the unlawful, malicious, premeditated would make it redundant. Murder is the unlawful, malicious, premeditated taking of a human life. And so when it comes to abortion, it would depend on the circumstance with the woman who chooses it, whether she is fully premeditated or culpable. So it would depend on the circumstance, just as it does with homicides that deal with born people. Because even with born people, you can have homicides that are murder or not murder.
Correct. And wouldn't you agree that most doctors and I would say 95% of the women know exactly what they're doing?
I don't know the statistics for those who go in to choose abortion procedures. I do know that the doctors are very highly educated about dismembering and killing the fetus or embryo, so they certainly do know. I would say would know what they are doing. They're trained to do that. So I want to go back though, Jeff, to my question, which is what you said. Yes, someone who commits homicide, the killing of another human being, should be punished. You did agree to that.
No, you're trying to out. I want you to answer the question: is this not premeditated murder?
In some circumstances, abortion might be premeditated murder.
Okay, so do you want to put these people in jail for long periods of time? Yes or no? Simple question.
Yeah, I think people who kill the unborn should be punished. For example, when Scott Peterson killed his pregnant wife and unborn son Connor, he was legally punished for killing that unborn baby. There are other men who kill unborn babies. They are punished, and many times they go to jail. So let me turn it back around to you, Jeff. If a man goes to jail for killing an unborn baby, should women also receive the same punishment since men and women are equal?
How does the man kill? How did this person kill the unborn baby? Excuse me.
In different cases, it depends. Some people might kick the woman or stab her. Other times, they may just give her an abortion pill and cause an abortion.
If a man kicks a woman or stabs a woman, that would be a case. But you still haven't answered my question, but I don't think you want to. Do you want to put hundreds of thousands? Do you want to put hundreds of thousands of women in jail for premeditating killing of babies? Simple yes or no, Trent.
Jeff, I believe that if someone kills a child, they should be legally punished, whether it is a born or unborn child. That answers your question.
Very good. So we'll have a lot of hundreds of thousands of women serving 30 years in jail. That's great.
I didn't say that. I said legally punished. Now, since I answered your question, I'd like you to answer my question. Do you agree if a human being kills another human being, they should be legally punished?
Yes.
Okay. Is a human fetus or human embryo, before they are born, are they a human being?
Not in my opinion. I feel that there's a difference between a woman who has autonomy over the child, is not yet separated from the mother and is still in her body, and I think there is a difference. That's why I disagree with the previous caller on infanticide, and I disagree that infanticide is going to be legal. I'd like you to predict which country is going to legalize infanticide in the next 20 years.
Well, they already have euthanasia of children in Belgium and in Europe, so it won't surprise me if infanticide becomes legal in Europe in the next 10, 20, or 30 years. But let's go back then to what you're saying. So it seems that you said the child is dependent. I guess I'll ask you, you say, well, it's not a human being. What is a human being?
Okay, well, now we're just going, and I completed my point. You apparently agree that it's fine to put women in jail, and that's fine. That's really all I wanted to talk about, to be honest with you.
Because you believe that people who commit homicide should be punished, except in the case of abortion, because the baby is just very dependent. You think there shouldn't be legal punishment if you kill a human being who happens to be very dependent and helpless. That's your view, right?
I live in the real world, and I don't want to see thousands of women put in jail because they had an abortion.
So you're okay seeing millions of babies be killed, though?
I'm saying I do not want to live in a world where women are being put in jail for having an abortion. That's basically it.
Why?
We just disagree. That's just my gut feeling and my genuine feeling.
So your argument is on par with someone who says, I don't think that thousands of white people should be put in jail for slavery because that's my gut feeling. Your view is no different than that, right?
Let me ask you this. When Lincoln and the other northern politicians wanted to end slavery, they genuinely wanted to end slavery, but they did not want to have a civil war. So they would have accepted if the South had not attacked them, they would have accepted the continuance of slavery for a while at least, because they did not want a war. Does that make them hypocrites? I say no. I don't think Lincoln and the other northern politicians were hypocrites.
I'm not asking about the factors that led up to the Civil War. What I'm saying, Jeff, is your argument is just, I don't want to see certain people punished for killing human beings because my gut says don't punish them, those human beings don't matter. That is identical to people who said those who abuse children, enslaved African Americans, don't punish them because those people don't really matter, and that's how my gut feels. Well, I'm sorry. I believe not in just following your gut. I believe you should follow your mind and reason that if human beings matter, they all matter regardless of size, age, or level of development, and all of them, from conception to natural death, should be protected under the law. So hopefully you can give that some thought.
More with Trent coming right up. Another hour of Why Are You Pro-Choice? Lots of folks on the line. Stay on the line. Don't go anywhere. We're going to get to your questions. And if you haven't called yet, 888-318-7884 is the number. Why are you pro-choice? We'd love to hear from you. And we'll be right back after this on Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome to Catholic Answers Live, the program where you participate with your questions about apologetics and evangelization, including the most important theological, spiritual, moral, and social issues facing the world today. Call now with your question for today's guest. Toll free 1-888-31-TRUTH. That's 888-318-7884. Now, from San Diego, Catholic Answers Live.
Second hour of Catholic Answers Live. So happy to have you with us. Happy to have Trent back with us. I know you've already been back once before, Trent, since the baby was born, but you were away for a while, so it's good to have you back. Just no red herrings this hour, please. We are our topic this hour, as last, is why are you pro-choice? If you'd like to share with us why you're pro-choice, if you would like to, maybe you'd like to try out your arguments on Trent, or maybe you're not exactly sure, but you lean that way and you'd like to talk with us about it, any of those calls would be more than welcome. 888-318-7884. We will try to be as civil and charitable and friendly as we possibly can. 888-318-7884. Trent is the author of many, many things, but I want to stress this one, Why We're Catholic, Our Reasons for Faith, Hope, and Love, Trent's latest book. And I got to hold it up there for the camera for all of you watching on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, or Periscope. And I'll tell you in a little bit. Well, let's go to some calls, and then I'll tell you how you can get this book at a discount for the rest of today. Trent, chapter 21 in this book, Why We Protect Life. It's why do we protect life? I don't want to give away your secrets or anything, but why do we protect life as Catholics?
Well, because as Catholics, we believe that human beings are valuable not because of what they can do, how they can function, how big or smart they are. Human beings are valuable simply because they are created in the image of God. They are rational entities who deserve moral respect. So human beings, no matter who they are, what they are, how developed they are, so the moment a human being begins to exist at conception until that human being's life has ended, he or she deserves to be respected, protected under the law, and treated with dignity. And that includes being legally protected from being unjustly killed or having their life taken away from them. So we believe just in equality and the protection of life. And I talk about that in that chapter of the book with principles that even non-religious people can appreciate.
And again, lots and lots of calls. How about we go right straight back to them, because there are some folks who have been waiting right through the break. Renee in Arvada, Colorado, listening on 1060 AM EWTN. Renee, your question or your comment for Trent Horn.
Well, my comment is kind of about you were just speaking with your last caller, or one of the last callers, about the dignity of the baby's life and the dignity of women and that sort of thing. And it seems that you are adamant about women that have had or women that will have abortions should be imprisoned, if I understood correctly, and therefore, because that would be the law. But, Christ said that the most important things are faith, hope, and love. I can't remember, it's Corinthians 13:13, and the most important of those is love. So he was the one that kept the adulteress from being stoned, and he was the one that told the woman at the well to go and sin no more. And in my view, he was the first feminist. So it seems that your very strict adherence to the law is almost it's First Testament. It's the law, but it's not compassionate, because many women who find themselves in situations that are very stressful, and we still, and I don't know if you would agree with this or not, but we still live in a very patriarchal society. And if we live in a patriarchal society, then many of the women that go for an abortion feel either that they would be scarred or, thought less of in society, or maybe even threatened with violence if they don't have an abortion. How do you come to terms with all those things? Because I think, to be honest with you, I lean more towards pro-life, but these are the things that bother me. And it seems to me that many people
Renee,
who are pro-life are...
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you asked Trent, how do you respond to these things? And it was pretty clear at that point. So let's let Trent respond, and then I will let you come back and respond to Trent.
Sure. First, I would say that protecting human life is not contradictory with being compassionate. Saying that no one should rape people. No one should enslave people. No one should torture other people. No one should murder other people. A person can say those things, and no one should kill human beings regardless of how young they are. You can say those things and still be compassionate to people who are in difficult circumstances. But compassion means to suffer along with someone, not to help someone cause suffering or harm to innocent human beings. So I reject the idea that somehow because I'm against the killing of innocent human beings, I'm not being compassionate. Now, I can understand that. I agree, and the circumstances that drive women to obtain abortions are oftentimes very, very difficult. Just as the circumstances that might drive a man to rob a bank. He may not be doing it for greed. He may feel like he's in a very, very difficult financial circumstance, and he just has to knock over this store or this bank and get the money. One can be compassionate about difficult circumstances, but still say you should not commit a crime or harm another person. In regards to, Renee, what you said about Scripture, when Jesus spoke to the woman who was caught in adultery, he prevented the Jewish leaders from carrying out the death penalty in that case. But he didn't say adultery was right. He told the woman to go and sin no more. But that doesn't mean that Jesus thought that all the laws were bad, because a young scholar of the law asked Jesus, what should I do to inherit the kingdom of heaven? And Jesus said, well, you know what to do. Keep the commandments. Don't steal. Thou shalt not kill. So Jesus upheld the commandments. You can be compassionate, but still, and part of compassion is not mistreating other human beings, such as by killing them. Finally, I didn't say about punishing people with decades in prison for having abortion. What I said is that if you kill a human being and it is illegal to do that, if it is illegal, then there needs to be some kind of legal punishment. Could I give you a story, Renee, and see what you think? Are you still with us? Do you see where I was coming from?
I'm still with you, but I'm wondering if I can just interject before I forget real quick. Can I interject something?
Okay, that's fine. And then I have one thing I can share with you, but go ahead.
I see your point about that Jesus differentiated between different times that he was compassionate towards people who broke the commandments and people who did not break the commandments. But the fact of the matter is that it was also a commandment to not commit adultery, and he was compassionate with that woman. And I think that if we really want to eradicate abortion, we need to start speaking to the men who impregnate the women and have them hold some responsibility and give them different thought processes about what and how to conduct themselves when women get pregnant by them. Because the idea of putting all of the responsibility on the women's shoulders and then making them pay for the crime, as we're referring to it in this instance.
Oh, Renee, no, I agree with you. I agree with you that those who are involved in an abortion procedure should be held accountable. The abortion provider, whether that provider is a man or woman, a woman who chooses this procedure, and if a man is a partner with. In some cases, the woman is coerced or bullied into this. In some cases, she's not. In some cases, the man is a driving force behind the abortion, the partner, I should say, the boyfriend or husband. In other cases, he's pleading with the woman to not kill his child. So people should be held responsible whether they are a man or a woman. But compassion doesn't mean that we don't believe in upholding the law to protect innocent people. This is the story I wanted to share with you about legal punishment. So, Renee, there was a case in Virginia where a woman gave birth on a hotel room bed, and she didn't know she was pregnant, or I think she knew she was pregnant, but she didn't know how to handle it, didn't know how to handle this baby. She gave birth to the baby on the bed, and she smothered the baby and suffocated the child to death. And the courts ruled that she could not be prosecuted because the umbilical cord was still attached. Now, most people, I think, would say that that's preposterous. This is a baby. Who cares if there's an umbilical cord? What do you think in that case? Do you think maybe it shouldn't be 30 years in prison, but do you think there should be some punishment for a woman who suffocates a newborn baby?
I think that we're kind of pivoting off the original comment that I made, and that original comment was that there should be compassion for women who have had or who will have abortions. There should be a time in our history, not in our history, but going forward, a time period that we're softened. I don't know how to express what I'm saying. Where you're not just, okay, today abortion is illegal and tomorrow we're going to start throwing people in jail for it. You have to give people time to come to terms with a new way of thinking after the abortion has been legal for years and years and years.
Renee, yes, but wouldn't you agree that, and first, I'm going to offer clarification, then I would like you to answer my previous question. If abortion were to be made illegal, I imagine the circumstances that would arise is because a majority of people, at least more than 70 or 80%, believe that this is wrong, it's murder, it should be illegal. And so the vast majority of people will know it's wrong, and that's why it has become illegal. So I think that condition will be met if it ever does become illegal. Because if a majority of people think it's okay, the laws will never get passed in a democratic republic like ours. Now, second, I want to hear about the case, though. The woman, because it's very, very similar to abortion. It's the woman, the baby. She feels like she's in a desperate situation. She suffocates the baby, and it's connected to the umbilical cord, so it's treated like a fetus. Do you agree there should be some kind of punishment in that case where she kills a newborn baby? What do you think about that case?
Well, again, when I made my phone call, I told them that I was on the fence. And to be honest with you, I'm more pro-life than pro-choice. But what I'm saying to you is that we should treat those women who have committed these kinds of acts with compassion. And that just as Jesus Christ allowed the woman who was the adulteress, which was breaking the Ten Commandments, he didn't throw her in jail. He kept her from her punishment. He kept her from that. And I think that there should be a period in time where we try to re-educate everyone, men and women alike, to have them rethink and understand what abortion is really about before we throw everybody in prison. And it sounds to me like it's the women who are going, not the men. And that's not right, and that's not compassionate. And like Jesus Christ said, the greatest of all these is love. And it makes me very sad because I've heard about your book on the radio and been interested to read it, but I won't read that with the kind of misogyny that I'm hearing on the radio tonight.
Now now hold on a minute, Ray. Well, we're gonna have to probably go to a break here, but that is hold on. I hope you're still there. But that is just that's interesting. I have not denigrated the position you're holding, and I'm trying to walk through it with you. But you're saying that, and in fact, I said in the radio tonight, I said anyone who is involved with ending a child's life, whether it is a male or female abortion provider, whether it is a man who pays for an abortion, or a woman who chooses an abortion, should be punished. So how am I hateful? How do I hate women? Because I think that women and men should be equally held responsible for ending a child's life. Do you think I really hate women? I'm a misogynist?
I haven't heard you speak of holding men responsible for this. The majority of your conversations have been about nothing more than the baby and the woman. And I'm sorry, I beg to differ with you. And I don't think anybody should be facing prison time. And I'm a Christian, and I don't think that anybody should be facing prison time when we have to re-educate people, and that would be the
all right. Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to go now to our break. But I would say that I have been consistent in the view that I've adopted, and I would say that this is an interesting position. I would agree that we have to change hearts before we change laws, but the church is very clear about compassion towards those who are post-abortive. In fact, I would recommend, Renee, that you read paragraph 99 in Pope St. John Paul II's encyclical, The Gospel of Life. In there, he has a special word to women who had abortions. He acknowledges that it's a painful, even shattering decision. He says that you should try to understand what happened, face it honestly, and the Father of mercies is ready to give you his forgiveness and peace in the sacrament of reconciliation. So I would say the church firmly has a compassionate view towards those who would choose abortion, but it's not contradictory to say that we should protect human life and be compassionate, but also hold those accountable according to their level of culpability, men or women, who choose the end of life of a small child. So hopefully you think about that.
And thank you very much, Renee, for that call. If you are pro-choice, we would love to hear from you. If you're pro-life, hold on another day. We'll be asking for pro-life callers. But if you're a pro-choice person, if that's your position and you'd like to discuss that with us, we would love to discuss it with you. Why are you pro-choice is our question this hour. Trent Horn is our guest. 888-318-7884 is our number, and we will be right back on Catholic Answers Live.
Why are you pro-choice? Call now. Trent is waiting to talk to you.
Hi, this is Cy Kellett, host of Catholic Answers Live, and I'm looking forward to meeting you this September 28th to 30th at our 4th annual National Apologetics Conference here in beautiful San Diego. This is one conference you are not going to want to miss. The theme is the reunion of all Christians, and we've got an all-star lineup of speakers guaranteed to fire you up. Catholic historian Steve Weidenkopf, apologist Mark Brumley, apologist Devin Rose, plus all your favorite Catholic Answers apologists. For almost 4 decades, Catholic Answers has been engaging our separated brethren in charity to bring them to the fullness of the truth. Join us for a lively and inspiring conference designed to help you play an active part in the reunion of all Christians. This is where it all begins. Join us this September for a conference that is sure to ignite and inform your faith. Seats are available, but they're going fast. Visit CatholicAnswersConference.com or call 1-888-291-8000 today to register.
Do you want to end abortion, halt the attack on traditional marriage, and ensure religious freedom for ourselves and for our grandchildren? To do this, we must convert the culture. St. Paul Street Evangelization is a grassroots initiative that recognizes this need and takes it to the streets. If you're interested in peacefully sharing the gospel in your area, visit streetevangelization.com to learn more.
Catholic Answers Live is brought to you in part by CatholicSingles.com, the website for Catholics who want to meet others who share their faith and values for faith, fellowship, and love. You can learn more at CatholicSingles.com. Catholic Answers Live thanks CatholicSingles.com for their generous support.
When you need answers about the Catholic faith, you need to have someone to turn to you can trust. At Catholic Answers, we take that seriously. And at Catholic.com, you'll find the answers to thousands of your questions on all things Catholic with an extensive library of audios, videos, tracts, articles, and more that gets larger every day. We've given the site a whole new look with better navigation than ever before and lots of great new features to make your Catholic.com experience one that will have you coming back again and again. That's Catholic.com with answers from the people you can trust at Catholic Answers. Visit us today.
Call now with your question. 888-318-7884. This is Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. We know that the conversation is going to get heated sometimes when we talk about these issues, but you are welcome to call, and we are happy to have those conversations. Why are you pro-choice? 888-318-7884 is the number. I have to tell you, Trent, my impression is that it's not your pro-life arguments that are bothering people so much today. It's that you follow them through to a conclusion that suggests people are responsible for their choices, and there should be consequences, even legal consequences, for taking the life of a child.
Yes, and I understand. I think this is good for us to unspool a little bit, Cy, because sometimes you can't get to these details in a conversation. That many people, including pro-life individuals, have a negative emotional reaction to the idea that those who choose abortion should be legally punished, including with something like imprisonment. And I think the reason they have that reaction is they say, well, I know women who have obtained abortions, and I don't think they should be imprisoned or punished. So this is wrong. So first I would say, well, number one, your intuition about that matter could be mistaken. It could be mistaken. Second, I would say, well, why do we think they should not be punished? Well, number one, and I would say, when I say the intuition could be mistaken, it could be mistaken about just the broad category. But let's look at the particular case. Why do we think why do many people think those who have chosen abortions ought not be punished? Well, number one, abortion is legal. They chose to do something legal, and it's not fair to punish someone for something that was legal when they chose to do it. We would say that it was legal, and they've been brought up in an environment where trusted medical professionals, trusted women's health advocates, and trusted politicians and government authorities tell them there's nothing wrong with what you're doing. So we would say the level of moral culpability is lowered for those who are involved. Second, there are cases for those who choose abortion where we would say that they may be coerced by their partners, even forcibly coerced. That's not all cases. There are probably many cases of women who freely choose abortion and the man involved is not even in the picture, or he protests the killing itself. So when we look at, well, should someone be legally punished for killing another human being? The answer is not yes, and these are how many years. The answer is, if they directly choose to kill an innocent human being, the answer is yes, and the amount of punishment depends on their intentions and the circumstances involved. For example, imagine two women who kill their husbands. One woman kills him to get his life insurance money. The other kills the husband because he is an abusive maniac who the police haven't been able to arrest or prove he's abusive, and she finally snaps out of fear for her own safety. In both cases, we would say, well, no, punishment, killing human beings is wrong. It's some kind of abuse that's below the level of what self-defense allows for killing. But we would see in circumstances, well, one killing is cold, premeditated, and malicious, and the other is done out of some kind of grave necessity, grave circumstances, so we may have lighter, less severe, or more severe punishments. And that's the same with women who kill born children. A woman who kills her child to get a life insurance policy on him versus a woman who gives birth to a baby, has some kind of psychological dissociative state and then dumps that baby in a dumpster. Many of those women are not given lengthy jail terms. They are given psychological help, and they're given other forms of punishment and rehabilitation. So the point I'm making on that is this. If we as a society believe it should be illegal to kill children, then those who choose to kill children, there ought to be some kind of punishment. And that punishment should not change because of the child's age. That's the point that I'm making. So now the punishment may vary based on the psychological state of the person involved and other circumstances, but we shouldn't just say, well, the child was unborn, so they don't matter. That's not what we should do.
Which brings me to we have lots of viewers on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Periscope, and it brings me to a question. Actually, it's a very good segue. Nice job, Trent. Why does a person think of the unborn child as less than human? I think that's, so Anonymous on YouTube says this: the fetus does not have the characteristics of a person. I believe in the rights of a person. Therefore, the fetus has no rights. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think that argument would succeed if the arguer could prove an unborn human being is not a person. So person is a term in philosophy or in law that refers to an individual that has specific rights or moral worth. So, yes, there are many people, even many sophisticated philosophers, who put forward arguments saying the unborn child is certainly a biological human being, but they're not a person. They don't have rights. But, of course, my counter to that is, well, what is a person? My definition of a person would be an individual member of a rational kind. So remember, it's not about what you can do, it's about what you are that makes you valuable. So if you are a child, a toddler, a baby, embryo, or fetus, regardless of your level of development, if you're a member of the human family, you're a person. If there were aliens, like Spock or Superman, every member of their rational kind would be a person. Even, baby Superman in his little pod, before he goes to Earth, or if he were, unborn Superman, he would just be Kal-El, though, on Krypton. But yeah, I mean, you see where I'm going with.
Yeah, but I think it's Super Baby. I don't think it's Baby Superman.
Well,
I think you say Super Baby. Is that right? Or is it Baby Superman? Seems like.
Yeah, that would be.
You're mixing.
We could do a whole other show about that side. But the point of the matter is, individuals remember rational kind. Now, those who try to disqualify the unborn will say, well, they don't think or feel, and we saw that in the previous hour. They can't think like we do. They don't feel like we do. The problem is when you start doing that, you either say you exclude humans like infants who can't think like us. They're not persons anymore. Or if you say that feeling pain makes you a person, you include non-human animals like rats or pigeons even. So really the most coherent view would be the what's called the rational substance view, the intrinsic property related to humans view, and there's more I can go about that, but I cover that in detail in my book, Persuasive Pro-Life. If that anonymous commenter on YouTube would like to read more about my position, they can find it in my book.
And it does seem that the circle of what we count as our species has gotten wider and wider over the years. And the first people who encountered, for example, Native Americans, there's this great debate in Europe, actually. Are they human like us? Are they not? And of course, slave traders wanted to say no. But why would we have discovered that our species begins with conception. Science discovered that. Yeah. Why would we say, well, no, that part of our species is out, when the whole trend...
Exactly. Yeah, the mark of progress has always been that those who have been depersonalized because they are different, those verdicts were always wrong, and those human beings deserve to be treated with respect. Those who put that same verdict to the unborn, is that a verdict you really want to agree with?
I'm not. No, I don't. I thought. Okay, maybe that was a rhetorical question. We'll be right back with more. Hey, give us a call if you are pro-choice and you'd like to discuss it on Catholic Answers Live.
Catholic Answers Live.
Talking about abortion can be scary, but so is anything with which you're unfamiliar. People need to learn how to talk about abortion in ways that inspire confidence in the truth of the pro-life position. We must talk about abortion because we are afraid. Persuasive Pro-Life: How to Talk About Our Culture's Toughest Issue is the new book by apologist Trent Horn that teaches you to face those fears, to engage in sustained and meaningful dialogue with the goal of persuading others. Field-tested on college campuses, Persuasive Pro-Life will help you to change people's hearts and minds and begin to build up a pro-life culture in today's world, one person, one conversation at a time. Order your copy of Persuasive Pro-Life: How to Talk About Our Culture's Toughest Issue today by calling 1-888-291-8000, going to Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore in your area. Also available as an ebook.
Wouldn't it be great to have a book to give to anyone to explain exactly why Catholics believe what we believe? The good news is that now there is. Why We're Catholic is the groundbreaking new resource by apologist Trent Horn. That one book you can hand to anyone as a starting point for helping them find their way into, or back to, the practice of the Catholic faith. In a series of short, easy-to-read chapters, Trent covers the whole range of common topics, starting with why we believe in anything at all, and answering all the common objections to the Catholic faith, both doctrinal and moral. Don't miss out on the most important, life-changing book to come along in years. Better yet, it's only $3 a copy when you order in bulk. Order your copies of Why We're Catholic today by calling 1-888-291-8000, visiting the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Tomorrow morning on EWTN Radio, More to Life with Dr. Greg and Lisa Popcak. The Popchaks provide the resources and support needed to live a more abundant life, with regular guest segments to provide opportunities for interaction with some of the brightest and best voices in Catholic lay ministry. More to Life with Dr. Greg and Lisa Popcak airs weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific. And right after Catholic Answers Live today, The Journey Home. Jackie and Tim Oglesby will be the guests. He's a former Baptist, she's a former Methodist, right here on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. Trent Horn, our guest this hour on Catholic Answers Live. 888-318-7884 is the number. I forgot to give it out before I went on the last break. And if you are in fact are a pro-choice person and would just like to discuss with us why you are pro-choice, 888-318-7884 is that number. I'll let you know again, though, that Trent's brand new book, Why We're Catholic, Our Reasons for Faith, Hope, and Love, that includes one chapter, Why We Protect Life, but chapter by chapter, just a non-confrontational, friendly, even joyful presentation of why we believe each thing that we believe as Catholics. So it's very helpful to you, and I think it will be very helpful to you. Why We're Catholic, you can get it for $10 now at Catholic.com. Just go to Catholic.com, and for today it's on sale for $10. If you want to buy 20 copies and give them out to people, they're just $3 a copy. If you buy 20, that's $60 for 20 of those. 888-318-7884 is the number here. We go now to Jenny in Fullerton, California, listening on Immaculate Heart Radio. Jenny, your comment for Trent.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Hello.
Hi, Jenny. Yes, you're on with Trent.
Yes. Well, I just recently came back to the church, to Catholicism, and I have I've always had this problem. It's very controversial for me. The whole thing about abortion, since I could say I committed a lot of those in the previous, time in my life. I'm in my 40s, and I've done this before, and I've talked to a lot of women. I've worked in the nursing aspect of this, and I've seen the struggles for many of the few women that have gone to have this done, but I've also seen the other aspect of how easy society has made it for women to do this procedure, and how devastating it could be. I agree with a lot of the stuff that you guys have been talking about, but my confusion and my heart goes out to those, since I'm also in another field that includes therapy. My heart goes to those women who had no choice in the matter whatsoever from the moment of conception. And I'm talking about women who have been raped, who have been victims of incest, and also those with mental health that are, I'm talking about, I work with minors, and they're children. I'm talking about kids that come because grandpa did it, or kids that don't even have the knowledge of how to become a parent because they're mentally challenged.
Yeah.
And where do we draw the line in making them feel on top of, this is happening to me? Why am I getting punished by raising something that reminds me of it every single day? And
Okay, Jenny, that's a very, very clear question. So I want to make sure that before we go on further, that Trent addresses that question. Where do we draw the line, Trent?
Yeah. Well, what I would say, Jenny, is that in cases of rape or incest, and that would also include, you mentioned the cases of someone who is mentally undeveloped or suffers from some kind of mental disability, so they're unable to consent to sexual intercourse. So rape in that case, any kind of rape or incest, we could just say rape to subsume them all into one category, is a horrific crime against women. It's terrible and it's awful, and I firmly agree with that. And what we have is, if pregnancy occurs in the case of rape, we've got a situation where there's just no good alternatives, that they're all difficult and unfair, that a woman is forced to either have an abortion and kill her child, place her child for adoption, or raise a child she never planned on raising. She's forced into one of those three options, and she should never be forced into any of those. And it's also just really unfair for the child. So when this comes up, I like to remind people that in certain other countries, if a woman is raped, sometimes she's executed in an honor killing. Like, even in our country, people blame women who are raped. They say, well, what were you wearing? Or how much were you drinking? And that's ridiculous. A woman, it's never, ever, ever a woman's fault if she is a victim of rape. Never, ever. So we should never blame a woman for being raped or punish her in any way. But we should also remember that the baby who comes into existence, it's never, ever his fault that he came into existence. So for me, I look at this and say, this is awful. What do we do? Well, let's take the harmful solution, the violent solution. Don't have a violent solution for the mother. Don't have a violent solution for the baby. We should only have a harmful solution for the man who caused the rape. He's the one who should be imprisoned. He's the one who should suffer harm, not the victims, who's the mother and the child. So I think, Jenny, you also brought up the point, well, what about her trauma? I've actually known women who have given birth to children who were conceived in rape, and they've found from these experiences that the children can actually be a source of redemption, that you see this beautiful baby who exists, and this baby just becomes an object of love. They just kind of swallow up the love from inside of you just because of who they are. Now, but the trauma of the rape will always be there. That's why therapy and mental help are going to be needed, regardless of what you choose. But we shouldn't take a violent solution towards the problem, towards the mother or child. So that's kind of how I look at it. What do you think of that approach?
but I think the percentage of the women that actually have the maturity to actually overcome all of those obstacles and love the baby, I believe it's very small compared to the ones that, I believe, I listen to you guys, and I'm very inspired to the comments that you guys say, but I know that also there's a lot of women that, you mentioned how devastating it is to have the abortion. I think it's also as devastating for a woman, even more so, when they are not forced, but kind of like take on the responsibility of carrying, that person's baby. And I've seen it a lot, and I've seen suicides, and women hurting themselves because of this. And a lot of them, the ones that I take care of are teenagers. And so I could see the harm in also making them feel guilty. Oh, well, I have to give birth because, the baby has to be born. And then, and before you go into that, because it's not the baby's fault, I know that you guys were talking about naming what's human, in the sense of, like, it doesn't matter where the development comes from. And I know this is kind of reaching, but, then if you want to really go back and back and back and back, you can retrograde to, sperm and egg, and we get rid of those on a daily basis, I guess.
Okay.
So
well, Jenny, let me jump in on those two different points, but I want to make sure that we get this settled out first before we move on. You can make a dividing line at conception that sperm and egg are not human beings. They are parts of human beings. Sperm has half the DNA genetic material of a man. Egg has half the genetic material of a woman. They are body parts. But when sperm and egg come together in conception, what you have is not a body part. You have a whole body. You have a new human being with a full set of chromosomes who is developing. So you have a new human being who comes into existence, will grow their own arms, legs, brain, sperm, or egg, and will continue to develop unless they die or they are killed. So there is a line that science has definitively drawn at conception where a new human being comes into existence. Second, I would say that and I appreciate your concern for those who might be teenage mothers or others in difficult circumstances. What about the trauma and difficulty of continuing a pregnancy and giving birth? I agree, it's very difficult. But what's the alternative? Especially even in the case of rape, you have someone who's a victim of violence. There's trauma from that violence, but there's also trauma that is added when you make someone an accomplice to violence, that someone has to live with every day knowing that they consented and took part in ending their child's life. And so that has to be considered as well. So as I had said before, in difficult cases, when we have two options, a violent option and a nonviolent option, as much as possible, we should pick the nonviolent option. And we can in abortion because the child is not an aggressor coming at us to hurt us. They're a baby growing where they should be growing, who needs our love and our support, and their mother and father need our love and support as well. So since you've just come back to the faith and you have these kind of questions, I have the authority to do this, I think. Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
I might have underside to do this. Jenny, I hope you'll stay on the line, and our call screener will speak to you. So please stay on the line. I'd like to send you a copy of my new book, Why We're Catholic, because if you've now just come back to the church, you may have lots of questions, about, well, why do we do this? Why do we do that? I have problems with this, or I'm not sure about that. The book might help you a lot, so I'd like to send that to you. It's called Why We're Catholic. Please stay on the line, and our call screener will get your address, and we'll have a copy sent out to you. So do stay on the line, and I'd love to help you along with your journey and everything you're wrestling with.
Why are you pro-choice? That is our topic this hour. We have to take a quick break, and we will come back with more Catholic Answers Live right after this.
Don't you just love listening to Trent Horn? Did you know you can book Trent or any of our other great speakers to speak at your parish or special event? Contact one of our seminar coordinators through the Speakers Bureau section on Catholic.com today to find out more information.
Wouldn't it be great to have a book to give to anyone to explain exactly why Catholics believe what we believe? The good news is that now there is. Why We're Catholic is the groundbreaking new resource by apologist Trent Horn, that one book you can hand to anyone as a starting point for helping them find their way into or back to the practice of the Catholic faith. Don't miss out on the most important, life-changing book to come along in years. Order your copies of Why We're Catholic today by calling 1-888-291-8000, visiting the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Homeschool Connections has recently formed a partnership featuring a dual enrollment program with Franciscan University of Steubenville. Our website is homeschoolconnections.com. We are a proud sponsor of Catholic Answers Live.
The Catholic Answers Minute. I'm Father Vincent Serpa. In John 15:26, when Jesus promised the advocate, he then warned the disciples that they would be expelled from the synagogues. The hour would come when they would be killed as an act of worship by ignorant people. Now, why does God allow this to be so? Why not have everyone be of an accepting mindset? But such is not God's design. He did not program us to be benign automatons. We can kill the apostles and the prophets who came before them. We can even persecute and put to death the Son of God. Who is this unfathomable being that he allows such evil to rear its wrath upon the sacred? He is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, who transcend the universe and yet are imaged in our very DNA. Because we know the Father and the Son, we revel in such mystery. The Spirit has indeed breathed on us. I'm Father Vincent Serpa for Catholic Answers, Catholic.com.
Call now with your question, 888-318-7884. This is Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. If you are pro-choice, we would love to hear from you. Our topic this hour, why are you pro-choice? Our guest, Trent Horn, the author most recently of Why We're Catholic, Our Reasons for Faith, Hope, and Love, but also the author of Persuasive Pro-Life, a full-length tome that's really helping a lot of people to understand the pro-life position and also to be persuasive in trying to share the pro-life position. But we're not looking for pro-life people to call today. We're looking for pro-choice people to call. We go now to John in Lafayette, Louisiana, listening on EWTN. John, your comment for Trent Horn.
So I wanted to ask about the about sort of the legality or the how constitutional it is to impose anti-abortion laws on other people in the U.S. or I guess in my state for that matter. It is illegal to make court decisions or it's unlawful to make court decisions or laws based off of foreign law. And I see the Bible by its definition is a form of foreign law. It's a moral code. And where I feel uncomfortable is where we start to impose biblical law on other people who really do not share the same sort of the same views. I don't want to argue about the morality of abortion because I have my own views, and morality is very subjective. It's like two people arguing whether a zebra is like white with black stripes or black with white stripes. It's all in the eye of the beholder, And I wanted to know your views on. Do you think it's really right that we should be imposing our religious views on other people?
Okay, well, that's a great question. And I would say that if a view is imposed into the law, it simply must have a rational foundation. It can't be a purely sectarian view. So the Constitution in the First Amendment says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. And so what that means is, how it's been interpreted over the years, is that the law, both at the state and federal level, should not establish a particular religion as being true, either demanding membership in that religion or people obeying that particular religion's precepts. So a law saying that everybody must attend church on Sunday would violate the First Amendment, and that's something I would agree would not be constitutional. However, just because a law has a biblical foundation, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have a rational foundation either. In fact, many of the biblical foundations are drawn from rational foundations about how humans ought to treat one another. For example, would you agree, what would you think of this argument? Our state does not have laws banning shoplifting because that would impose the commandment, thou shalt not steal, on other people.
Oh,
Hang
on.
Are you there?
John, are you there with us, John?
John?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, go ahead.
Did you hear that example I gave about shoplifting and thou shalt not steal?
I think, so my thing, I think that's a very, not a loaded example, but it's not of equivalence, because stealing it's a shared value that all Americans have amongst each other. If it were me or a Muslim or this one, it's a agreed notion that we shouldn't steal to keep stability in society, because it affects. If I were to steal from a Muslim, or if a Muslim were to steal from me, it's still hurting somebody of a different faith. And what I see with abortion is sort of like, let's say, the abortion laws don't really affect Catholics, because, Catholics don't believe in abortion, therefore they're not going to get an abortion because they think it's wrong. However, how about for somebody who isn't a Catholic? If a person who isn't a Catholic receives an abortion, it's not going to directly affect the Catholic. It might be bad towards their moral view, but it won't directly affect the Catholic in any way.
But you're saying it'll affect somebody who might be, let's say, an atheist who thinks there's nothing wrong with abortion.
Yes, exactly. And what I'm trying to get across is that I think it's like, from my point of view, if you're a Catholic and you don't believe in abortion, you shouldn't do abortion. You shouldn't go abort your child. But it's not my right to say what your moral code is, because when we extrapolate and make laws based off of moral code, of biblical religious texts, we base them off of the notion of that they're shared values.
Well, John, let's take it a bit back. So the argument I make is actually not based on the Bible. In fact, the Bible doesn't actually talk about abortion. It doesn't mention abortion. My argument is actually based on shared values. It's based on the value that we shouldn't kill innocent human beings. Abortion directly kills innocent human beings. Therefore, abortion should be illegal. People disagree, though, about whether the unborn's a human being or whether they deserve to be protected under the law. So there's disagreement there. But are you saying we shouldn't pass a law just because lots of people disagree with it? For example, when we banned slavery or racial segregation, would you agree many people disagreed with those laws?
Yes, but what the thing is, banning such things of that matter wasn't a religious issue. It was more of a humanities issue. It was it had to do with people who are already developed and people who.
But John, how is abortion? John, how is abortion a religious issue when the argument I gave you just now was not religious?
Because the whole notion of abortion being illegal. I mean, yeah, you could make that argument that from a non-religious stance, but I'm sure that if you weren't a Catholic, I don't think you would really. If your views of Catholicism, they influence your political views, and the political view that abortion should be illegal is heavily influenced by Catholics.
Actually, I was opposed to abortion before I became Catholic. I'm a convert to the Catholic faith, so that's not true in that sense. But let me add, I'm going to add another point before we have to move on. The idea that, well, if a law doesn't affect you, just let people develop their moral codes, and if it doesn't affect you, that's not a big deal. I guess I can just offer one more example. I'd like to hear your response. We can move on if we have time. Imagine, 80 years ago, people were debating laws about child labor, about whether it was okay for a family to send their 5-year-old to work in a coal mine. And we now know that's terrible, that's abuse, you shouldn't exploit children in that way. But imagine someone saying, well, you know what, there's disagreement about whether it's okay to let children work. And if you don't like child labor, well, don't employ children, don't send your children to work. But if you don't have children even, well, it doesn't even affect you. So why would you even be involved? to me here, the case is, well, we should be involved because someone has to stand up for the children who are being exploited when no one else will. And that's the contention I'm making with abortion, in that even if saying, well, I'm not going to choose abortion, other people won't, the law isn't for me who's going to choose it. The law is for people who will choose it. Martin Luther King was once asked about this, should you change hearts or change the laws on racism? And Martin Luther King Jr., he said, well, laws don't change hearts, but they do restrain the heartless. So I would say just as we protect children from exploitation and child labor, we should protect unborn children from being dismembered by abortion. So I think that that's a fair comparison to make. If you disagree, definitely check out my book, Persuasive Pro-Life, or call us back and we can continue that discussion. But we have limited time, so perhaps we could go to another caller and see if we can get everybody in before the end of the show. But thank you, John, for calling. I do appreciate your viewpoint.
All right, let's go to Bob in Golden, Colorado. Bob, why are you pro-life? Pro-choice.
Well, I am for informed choice, and that is to say that, it goes back to the Cal Thomas article I read about 15, 20 years ago, that 9 out of 10 who saw an ultrasound walked out. And that's basically based on information they received that they didn't have. And so I think a compromise in this, instead of advocating for the either extreme of pro-life or pro-choice, just getting to the point of saying that if people had the information, they wouldn't carry out and with the abortion. And therefore you would have abortion becoming rare, as the Democratic Party initially advocated for, a rare instance of this occurring.
Bob, we don't have a lot of time, so I want to let Trent respond to that.
Yeah. My response to that would be that there are states that have informed consent laws. I think there are many states where women have to read a pamphlet or be explained what the abortion procedure is. I am not aware, and I am extremely skeptical of the statistic that 90% of women, when they read these pamphlets or hear these descriptions, choose to not have an abortion. I'm very skeptical of that because we don't see such low abortion rates per capita in the states that have these informed choice laws. So I would say that those laws are great. We should have them, but there's nothing wrong with saying, that's a starting point. But then, why not make it illegal to kill the child outright? I mean, that'd be like saying, well, instead of having laws against rape, we make men who want to rape women, well, we need you to read this pamphlet. It's going to tell you all the bad things rape does to women, and it's actually not good for you either. And so just read this, and then you can go on ahead. Now, in some cultures where, for example, let's say spousal rape is just prevalent and nobody thinks it's a big deal, you may have to start with some kind of an educational campaign first. You may have to do that before you can pass a law. But I would say the educational campaign, the informational campaign, is a means, not an end. The end is giving the legal protection for innocent human beings from acts of violence, whether it's rape, enslavement, torture, or homicide, including abortion. So I think that while it's noble to promote things that will reduce abortions, there's no reason to stop short and not move forward for full legal protection for unborn children. But I hope you'll give that some thought, Bob, and thanks for giving us a call.
Thank you very much, Bob. Why Are You Pro-Choice is our topic this hour. Our guest is Trent Horn, the author of Why We're Catholic, Our Reasons for Faith, Hope, and Love. I got to get it in the camera there. Lots of folks watch. When I say camera, because folks are watching on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, or Periscope, it does seem to me, Trent, that none of your arguments make sense at all unless you acknowledge that human life has a distinct beginning at conception. It seems like even Bob's point about educating and all that, it seems to hedge because it's in some way that unborn person is considered less than. So
it's interesting, Si, that I've noticed that some people, even those who say they're pro-life, they think the unborn matter, but not as much as a born person. So they're willing to propose solutions to abortion for the unborn that they would never propose for born people. And I attribute that to our cultural brainwashing towards the unborn, that we all have to continually fight against, and I hope we all will, including our listeners today.
Trent, thank you for being a leader in that fight, helping us snap out of it a little bit, free us from that brainwashing. Thanks for being with us today, Trent.
Happy to be here.
Trent Horn, the author of Why We're Catholic, Our Reasons for Faith, Hope, and Love. Tomorrow, 2 hours of open forum. Patrick Madrid will be in here for the first hour. Tim Staples for the second hour. We hope you'll join us then. We'll take any question you got on open forum. We're not selective. And you don't have to be Catholic to call. Remember that. You can be non-Catholic. You can be anti-Catholic. We'll see you tomorrow on Catholic Answers Live.